Hello, my name and today I will be talking about the Nelson's antelope squirrel. This species is found locally in San Luis Obispo County, so I'm excited to talk more about it today. So the scientific name is Amospermophilus nelsoni. The order is Rodentia. The family is Sciuridae. The genus is Amospermophilus, and the species is Amospermophilus nelsoni. So let's get started. I'm gonna begin by talking about the physical description of what these little critters look like. So if you see them out in the wild, you can identify them. So to begin with, they have small fusiform bodies, kind of like that fuzzy potato that we've been talking about. They have rounded ears, they have short legs and tails, and as you can see in the photo, they have counter shading, so they have white underbellies, and their dorsal surface is a yellowish brown to a buffy tan. They have a thick, hairy tail. They have a distinctive light stripe that runs along the side of their body from their shoulder to their rump, and so you can see that in the photo. And this is a really key distinction between other species, which we will talk about in the upcoming slides. So they also have a winter pelage, which is darker than their summer pelage. The males are slightly larger than the females, and their mass can range from 142 to 179 kilograms. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about differences between species. And so you can see I have two pictures of antelope squirrels on the slide. One is the Nelson's antelope squirrel, and the second is a white-tailed antelope squirrel. And so if you didn't know, these two species look pretty similar, and I'm going to be teaching you a little bit about how to tell these critters apart. So the Nelson's antelope squirrel is smaller than the white-tailed antelope squirrel. The Nelson's antelope squirrel has a brown pelage, whereas the white-tailed antelope squirrel has a gray pelage. The Nelson's antelope squirrel also has wider zygomatic arches. They have a more inflated auditory bulla. They have larger nasal bones, and they have larger upper incisors and first upper molars. And so there's a few key distinctions between these two species, so if you see them out in the wild, you can identify them more clearly. And now we're going to talk about the geographic range of the Nelson's antelope squirrel. So they are endemic to California, which means that they are only found in California. You can find them in the western San Joaquin Valley and in eastern San Luis Obispo County. They are primarily found in areas that range from 60 to 360 meters in elevation. And talking a little bit more about habitat, they prefer areas that have arid grasslands and shrublands. They also prefer this shrub cover to range between light and medium density. They like alkaline, loamy soils, and they actually depend on kangaroo rat burrows, which is an interesting fact, so that you will really only find the Nelson's antelope squirrel if there are kangaroo rats present. So this limits their habitat range. Their eating habits, so the Nelson's antelope squirrel is omnivorous, which means that it eats both vegetation and other animals. And so their primary diet consists of insects, seeds, green vegetation, and occasionally small vertebrates. And as you can see in the photo, they actually have a distinctive eating posture where it squats on its rear limbs and it actually places its tail behind the back while holding food with forepaws. And now we're going to talk a little bit about reproduction. So females and males mate with multiple partners during the mating season, and this season is from late winter to early spring. They breed once per year, and they have an average of 9 young per brood, but it can range from between 6 to 11. The average gestation time is around 26 days, and the young are born in burrows and typically emerge after 30 days. The male does not care for the young, so it is primarily the female's job to be the caretaker. It's primarily between 3 and 4 weeks until the young are completely independent and begin to leave the burrow to create their own. And they reach sexual maturity at around 1 year of age. However, their average lifespan is around 8 months due to high rates of predation. So many times, young will not reach sexual maturity because they will have been predated on. Now we're going to talk a little bit about their behavior. So they do not hibernate. They actively forage and are diurnal, which means that they're primarily active during the day. And most activity occurs when temperatures are between 10 and 32 degrees Celsius. And they will retreat to burrows when they are too cold or too hot. They additionally do not migrate. They stay within their range of burrows for protection. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about human interactions with the Nelson's antelope squirrel. So they are classified as endangered on the IUCN Red List. However, they do not live in close proximity to humans, so they're not really considered a pest. But their main threats do include habitat destruction for crop cultivation, especially in the San Joaquin Valley. Additionally, threats include urbanization, overgrazing, use of rodenticides, and insecticides. There are some positive benefits that Nelson's antelope squirrel has on people, which include the control of insect populations, and they aid in seed dispersal. Lastly, I wanted to talk about an interesting fact that I found while researching the Nelson's antelope squirrel. So the Nelson's antelope squirrel uses alarm calls to warn their families of predators, which I think is really interesting that they have these dynamic family relationships. And their predators will include American badgers, coyotes, and kit foxes. And lastly, I just wanted to input the photo on the right, which has a researcher holding the Nelson's antelope squirrel, and so you can really get a good estimation of their small size. And if you want to learn more about the Nelson's antelope squirrel, I would highly recommend looking more online, especially at these sources listed. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed learning about the Nelson's antelope squirrel.